Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 2:05, Monday, May 18th. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. First matter is adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion regarding the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I second.
Motion's been made and properly second. Cornelia, you mind calling the roll, please?
Cotton,
Yes.
Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay, Johnson,
Yes.
Clark. Did I hear Clark?
Not at this time. He's still trying to
Okay.
get in.
Coach V,
Yes.
motion approved.
Thank you. Next matter is the minutes. First, the minutes from the April 20th special board meeting. Any motion regarding those minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as is.
Second.
Lisa, wasn't there an issue on there that we needed to change?
That was on the, yes,
April
yes,
27th.
okay. Yes, just for clarity, on the April 20th minutes, the motion that was made by Commissioner Lapine after the executive session regarding the lease at Denny Terrace. For clarity, the motion, I'm trying to find it. Hold on a second. Wait a minute.
That's on the April 27th.
Yeah, that's on the 27th. Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay. So this is regarding the April 20th. There's no issue with the April 20th. So that motion's been made and properly second. Cornelia?
Cotton,
Yes.
Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay, Johnson,
Yes.
Clark, Coach V,
Yes.
motion approved.
Okay. Now with regards to the minutes on April 27th, for clarity, the motion that was made after executive session by Commissioner Lapine to enter into the sublease at Denny Terrace with the Richmond County Sheriff's Department. The motion was actually regarding a 3 to 5 year subterm lease. And with regards to the assignment of the full lease, that was regarding the classroom building only and not the gym.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So can I get a motion regarding those minutes with those corrections?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes with the corrections.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. Cornelia?
Cotton,
Yes.
Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay, Johnson,
Yes.
Clark,
He's still trying. I'm about to send him the phone number. He said his computer's acting up.
Coach V,
Yes.
motion approved with corrections.
All right. Thank you. We are on to the financial report. Ms. James?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to share my screen, so give me just 1 second.
Childlike. Oh.
Okay, can everyone see?
Yes.
Great. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to provide you an update on the financials for both the general fund and the enterprise fund. actuals year-to-date through April 30th. And then I'm also going to provide you an update on our COVID-19 financial forecasting, and also give you a update on the budget, our discussions with the county on last week. So the slide you have on your screen currently is our general fund revenue and expenditure comparisons for the 10 months ended April 30th. And you'll see that our total overall revenues have increased approximately 5% in comparison to last year. And that's primarily due to our increase in administrative revenue. But you'll also see there that our program revenue has dropped off significantly from last year. The decrease is approximately 24%. On our general fund expenses, our actual expenses continue to be more than last year, approximately 12%. And those increases primarily relate to payroll, property management expenses, and some program expenses in our revenue division. Enterprise fund revenues, although we have seen a increase at the golf course for March and April, our total revenues continue to be down when compared to last year, approximately 6%. And what's driving that decrease, you'll see there that our cart rentals are approximately $211,000 versus $247,000 last year. And our pro shop and concession revenue are also down when compared to last year. Our overall expenses for the enterprise fund are up approximately 13%. And you'll see there the driver of that increase is our payroll and benefit expenses, as well as some repairs and maintenance and capital outlay expenses. If there are no questions, I'll go ahead and get into the update, our COVID-19 financial impact update. So what I've done is, for this update, is I have updated the April 2020 numbers for actual revenues and expenses, again through April. And then on our forecasting for the general fund, I have increased our forecasted loss in rental revenue for May and June, and that I'm forecasting to be about $6,300 per month. And then on the expense side for the general fund, I've updated the remainder of the forecast for some additional IT and property management expenses. And so here, this slide shows you the total projected revenue and expenses for the general fund. Our administrative revenue, again, we're projecting to be more than last year. And again, that's primarily related to our property tax revenues. And you'll see there that our program revenues, I'm projecting to be, again, significantly down related to COVID-19 closures and refunds. On the general fund expenditures, the payroll expenses, we're still forecasting to continue to pay our full-time staff through May and June. And I have forecasted to pay some of our payroll staff as well in that number. Obviously, our program expenses continue to be, I have not forecasted any program expenses for May and June. And then on our operating expenses, those projections include, again, the additional expenses related to IT and property management. This slide here breaks down the summary of the revenues by month. And so on I'll call your attention to our general fund program revenue. You'll notice there in April that $55,000, that is actual refunds that were processed for the month of April. The majority of those refunds that were processed for April was related to our rental revenue as well as athletic program revenue. And you'll see there in May.
Thank you so much. Oh, bye.
Somebody have a question? And then you'll see there in May and June, again, that's where I'm estimating that the refunds that we'll probably process for rentals in May and June is approximately $6,000 per month. There's not much for me to update on the general fund expenditure, so I'll move on to enterprise fund impact. Here you'll see again, I'm estimating that our total revenue for the enterprise fund is approximately $704,000 compared to $756,000 that was realized last fiscal year. And I'm also projecting expenses of $754,000 compared to $709,000 last year.
How come our expenses are going up so high there? With, because we're not having the cost of food or cost of goods in the shops, and it doesn't make sense.
If you go back to, and I'll go back to the previous slide where I talk about actuals through April, we're already increased in expenses 13%. And again, that's primarily due to increased payroll and benefit expenses. We had increased capital outlay expenses.
Gotcha.
Okay. And again, the golf course is continuing to operate as normal, so there won't be any reductions in those expenses for the enterprise fund. Okay. And so here is a comparison of our enterprise revenues monthly. And you'll see here, I'll call your attention to April. Like I said, we have seen some increased activity at our golf course in March as well as in April. For March, the total rounds that were played was 2,101 rounds, and we've seen an uptick in that in April. Total rounds played in April is 2,895. So actually, our total expenses our total revenues for the month of April in the enterprise fund is actually up slightly when compared to last year. And again, that's due to increased activity. And so because of that increased activity, I did adjust our revenue for the May and June months in our forecast to reflect that increase. Okay. Are there any questions on anything that I've shared today? Okay, if not, I'll give you an update on our meeting with the county last week on Thursday. We did have a budget work session with Richmond County Council, and some of the things that came out of that meeting is that they are requesting that all of the millage agencies resubmit their budget. There was discussions about possibly reductions in our budget that the county council were requesting. And then another county council member did bring up the question about how much per law, I guess, the county council can approve for our millage rate. I think Lawrence has discussed with that the minimum is 5 mills, although the county council does obviously approve us for more than that and has done so for several years. So that discussion is being had. We did receive an email today requesting us to resubmit our budgets by next Tuesday at 12 o'clock. So I will be reviewing the budget and also discussing with Ms. Watson and Ms. Williams our strategy as far as the county council's request.
So in short, my other fellow commissioners, this is exactly what I talked about the last time we had this meeting. When I asked about if we can lose money or what the situation will be, exactly what I asked about because I knew it was going to happen. I spoke to the council members, and I knew this was a reality for us. So it's just about a matter of how we're going to respond to it.
There wasn't any clear direction, members of the RCRC board, as it relates to 2%, 5%. There were no numbers given. The only clarification, if we would like to call it that, was that only request what you need. Well, I'll be very honest with you, we did request what we felt that we needed. So Brandy, along with myself, Tamika, Ms. Williams, our deputy, and some of my leadership, we will be looking at the overall budget and identifying scenarios, which I'll be honest with you, any cuts will result in possible readjusting of the hours of operations, could have some impact on programs. Everything is a little unforeseen right now, but I'll do my best to develop something that you all can be comfortable standing behind. And that leads us to the next item. If I'm not mistaken, Brandon, you may have access to the email, and I'll make sure I forward it to the board. They have moved the public hearing because it's not just RCRC. No, the public hearing will go forward, but they have moved the second reading. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's June 4th. But I'll provide you with those dates and that information. And Madam Chair, if you would like to sign on for a public hearing, or any of you, I would recommend that you do that to speak on behalf of the commission as its appointed leadership. And Brandy and I can provide you with any overviews that you would request. And then lastly, what I would like to share is that, of course, I have been doing budgeting for a number of years, but this is definitely a different process by which we only provide them with what they ask, but then you have a lot of other questions that the actual elected officials want additional information. So that's what forces us to go back, because there's not a lot of clear direction to the millage agencies up front. So we're hoping to work through that. I did have a conversation via email with one of the assistant county administrators, and she is working with the county administrator to pull together a meeting prior to the budget reviews, again with the county council, so that we're able to, as millage agencies, sit down with him and go over our priorities and discuss some of the priorities that the county has as well. So that concludes my portion of Brandy's report, and I stand ready to answer any questions.
What are your priorities, and what are you kind of forecasting in this COVID-19 situation we're in?
I will be providing, as a part of my report in the next agenda item, my overview of the phased approach to reopening, and you'll see some of those priorities in each phase. As it relates long-term for the agency, my priorities are pretty clear based on our 10-year plan and discussions and directions I've gotten from the board, and that's to create a workforce that is skilled, talented, and knowledgeable to implement programs to the citizens. So that is my number one priority, and I feel very confident. And those are the things that the citizens don't get to see, is the behind the scenes, the organizational leadership and structure. So I feel very confident that we've been able to do that. So going into this next fiscal year, our goal was to focus on our youth programming, which would be summer and after school. But of course, we have a wrench thrown into that because of COVID-19. Getting back together, getting in those small spaces are definitely a concern. And then of course, my other priority, because we don't have a capital funding source, yes, the thunder, is that we have several properties that need to be brought up to ADA compliancy, as well as we're going to have to redo some of our entranceways, our restrooms, in response to COVID-19. So that of course is another priority, is to create spaces that are safe and that are clean as we go into our new normal.
Any other questions regarding the financial report?
And Madam Chair, I will provide you all with that revised budget before we send it to the Richmond County Board, so that we're all on the same page.
How fast is the turnaround supposed to be after you submit the revised budget to county council? How fast are they supposed to get you back a response as to how much they're going to fund. And my second question is how are we going to prioritize where the budget cuts are going? Are we going to, is it going to be personnel? Is it going to be programmatic? How are we going to prioritize that?
The first thing, the way that the state statute is set up, or the county statute for their budget process, the budget does have to go through 3 readings before it is adopted. So we've been through the first reading, then we'll have a public hearing in between, and then June 4th is the second reading. And then of course there'll be the third reading. That third reading is that final vote for the approval of the budget. The second piece, how will we prioritize between staffing, programs, and facilities? Using what we have here as a guide, meaning our strategic plan document, the leadership and guidance that you all have provided, and then my expertise along with my team in recreation. I'm going to be recommending across the board. So no, it's not going to be just one program or one employee. I think the best way to approach this is from a strategic standpoint that has the less impact where we can on services to the citizens.
All right. Ms. James, were you finished with your portion of the financial report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Lisa,
Yes.
can I make one comment about the financial side of it? I guess because it might be appropriate now, but do you think it'd be appropriate, Brandy and Lakita, to maybe get with enterprise guys, the Linrick guys, and say, look, we're having the most rounds we've ever played, but yet we know we're not going to make as much money off golf carts and the pro shop and whatnot. Maybe looking at taking a slight increase, because we're going to get a lot of play over the next 60 days, I would assume, for public open space and people getting outside, or 30 days, and really try to capitalize on making a little bit more money. Maybe raise it $1 or $2 around. That might cause too much, people to get upset that we're doing that. But obviously, if we're not making as much money, we have more rounds, and there's a disconnect, and it would be nice to at least break even there, especially with these we're getting more play than ever. So I would assume that taking care of the course is going to cost more money and blah, blah, blah. But, if we're not getting the golf cart sales, then maybe we need to take our rates up. But, obviously I'm not an expert in understanding that, but that's just a suggestion that I have.
It's definitely something that we can look into, Commissioner Lapine. We're also looking at the use of the facility, the Upper Richland facility, and how there are ways that we could maximize off of opportunity with the golf course, utilizing some of that space and maybe being able to balance off revenue. But we do have a couple of things that we're looking at, and we'll be more than happy to share those with you.
All right.
Anybody else? All right. We are going to move on to the executive director report. Ms. Watson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brandy, have you stopped sharing your screen?
I have, yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share mine. It shouldn't take me but a second. Can you all see?
Yes.
So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, as we are preparing to move into an uncertain future. We will be doing so with a new logo. So the logo that you have before you was the logo voted by our citizens via social media and on our website for the new logo for the Richland County Recreation Commission. I am truly excited about the opportunity to rebrand our agency, and we'll start moving forward with utilizing this internally June 1, and we have a plan for revising our business cards and our internal documents. So thank you to the team that pulled this together, to the company with Claire, Askew's company. We appreciate her support in getting us out, as well as our community relations division. And we're just excited about a new day with Richland County Recreation Commission and our new logo. Are there any questions about this logo? Well, seeing none, we are excited and we look forward to the next level for Richland County Recreation Commission. I would like to share with you now the proposed phasing program for returning to work and returning to the services for the public in recreation and parks for Richland County Recreation Commission. I will share with you that in all of my experiences, as many of you have been through various things as well, this was not something that I was prepared for. I've seen a lot and done a lot, but this has taken us all for a loop. So what I present to you today is a variety of documents and information pulled from our local, regional, state, and federal health officials as we look towards the future for Richland County Recreation Commission. As I shared with you when we first started this process, I was blessed to have the opportunity to serve on the state's reopening team for recreation, as well as the national team for reopening recreation. What does this mean for Richland County Recreation Commission? Well, it means we get the best information first. And so with that, we are now working also with our local partners, which does include the Richland County and the Columbia Parks and Recreation. So I just want to talk about Richland County Recreation Commission. As I shared with you, serving on these different boards allows me the opportunity to see what everybody else is doing. But at the end of the day, I am responsible, and you appointed me to serve in this position to make the best recommendations for our county. So what does COVID-19 look like? Before I can talk about phasing us back in, I want to make sure that we all are revisiting the data. So the information I share with you, these maps come directly from DHEC's website as of yesterday, as of May 16th. And you can get the same information. So you see here, this is our lovely county. And as of May 16th, we were at a total of 8,843 cases in our county alone. We are fast-paced in new cases. I am glad to report that we have assisted with establishing sites for testing, which is one of the milestones that is required as you consider reopening. And our entire county has been exposed to increased testing. There's testing happening at the state fairgrounds and other facilities throughout the county. So this is going to help us keep abreast of what's current. So what does it look like again for us? As you see, when we first started out, March 7th, 2020, there were 6 cases. As of the 16th, 2020 of May, we are, this is each week, how we increased. And then this past week, we were at a new 800 cases. Next, what does it look like from demographics? These are our numbers in Richland County. 45% of the cases for COVID-19 are in the African-American community. We have 43% in our white community, and then the lower numbers represent the unknown, Asian American, Indian, and other. So Lakita, why are we looking at this data? Because I think it's important as we look at the data for the entire county, it helps us look at our own demographic for our staff as well as the citizens that we serve. By gender, in Richland County, 50% of the cases are female, with 43% being male and 2% being unknown. Again, age groups, the highest age groups are the 41 to 50, 51 to 60, and 61 to 70. This does have an impact as I think about bringing our seniors back to our facility. Right now, these are the highest pace in the adult numbers. Again, still talking about Richland County. As I listen to individuals all across the state about their opening plans, we're not like everyone else. So we are different. When I listened to the news last week, it talked about our county being a hot spot. So I just wanted to share with you what our county looks like as of 12 p.m., well, 11:59 p.m., the 15th of May. These are all of the zip codes that encompass Richland County. As you see here, the 2 largest being 29223 and 29229. If I'm not mistaken, our offices sit in one of our administrative offices sit in one of these zip codes. You'll hear me talk a little bit about how do we decide when to come back, and you'll hear me talk about the CDC's recommendation as well as the World Health Organization, and that talks about 14 consecutive days of no new cases in a community. So I just want to kind of share with you as we look at this by day. It started March 16th, and you saw the different highs and lows where we spiked here in April. And then just over this past week, we had 1 day of a decrease, then we spiked up, we went down, and we're still increasing. Some of this data does change as the testing results come back from various individuals. So I wanted to share with you all of that data, all of the numbers, so that when we look at this phase plan, is that we're not looking at it from the eyes of a different county. We're looking at it based off of our numbers and what we see as cases for COVID-19. Before I move forward with sharing with you the reopening plan, was there any clarification you needed about the data that I just provided you with about our community? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to this recommended plan. As I shared with you right before going into the plan, is that my recommendation to you as a board and as the ED that you have assigned is that we do not reopen full-fledged and allow the public back in until we reach this criteria that was established by the World Health Organization, the White House, and the CDC. And that is looking at it from the symptoms, downward trajectory of the influenza-like illnesses reported within a 14-day period, and the symptoms, again, everything is about downward trajectory. The number of cases, as well as what's being treated at the hospital. This is the same language that's being used by the Richmond County Library, as well as the City of Columbia. I know that there are other communities that are opening up faster. I know businesses are opening up, but the nature of what we do in recreation is completely social. So there will be opportunities for us to modify and slowly come back, but I don't recommend we go back full-fledged until we have those 14 consistent days, consecutive days of a downward trajectory of new cases. So that'll take us into the factors that I considered with the plan that I'm sharing with you. We want to look at the various categories and the contact intensity and the number of contacts and the potential for modification. So as I go through this, when we talk about the contact intensity, that talks about, if you look at from a social distancing standpoint, how can you successively decrease the contact? And so you see here, areas like parks and walking paths and trails, they have a low contact intensity, as well as low opportunities for exposure and contacts. And then it has the potential to be modified, but not as high of a modification. So that's where your social distancing come in. And you'll see, and I can provide this information now, I won't read through all of it for you, but I want you to know that we pull this not only from our state, but from our national Recreation and Parks Association, who's pulled from the CDC, the National Association for Youth Sports, and a plethora of other professional agencies. So this isn't Lakita just making this stuff up as I go along. I think that it's important to look at all of these things because these are the categories that we offer programs and activities in. Paying attention to the contact intensity, paying attention to the high number or the number of contacts that are associated with each one of the categories, and then can you actually modify the space so that you are able to utilize for social distancing?
Lakita.
Yes, sir.
So on that one, on the third column, modification potential. So the difference between low and high is that if it's low modification, like on athletic fields and outdoor congregate settings, where it says low modification potential.
Yes, sir.
So that's saying that low means that it's easy to modify and high means it's hard, or
low meaning it's harder to modify. It has the low potential for modification.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And then you'll see here additional, we don't have museums, but we do have other outdoor leisure spaces, our child care facilities, meaning our after-school summer camps. And if you notice here, it talks about the ability to modify these things. So I'll go back to these as I now go into the actual plan. There was one thing I wanted to share with you, and I looked at the various sports that we currently would have offered during the summertime and the facilities that we lease to our community groups. And I wanted to share with you what the Institution for Play and Athletic Sports is sharing about certain sports. And I only pulled out these 3 sports because they're sports that we implement and sports that are implemented by our partners. And I know there's a lot of discussion around when and how to open up when it comes to our athletics. So I want to start off with sports activities, the risk assessment. As you see, our sources come from the U.S. baseball and then U.S. softball. So the lowest risk for us to start back with baseball would include their fun and training activities and drills that are done with household members at home with your own sanitized equipment. As we move into our phasing, and if we feel that we can move to medium risk, understanding that medium risk means it's a little high, it's a higher risk than low, of course, for the spread or situations to be in play for spreading. So training or playing along with household members at a public facility with your own sanitized equipment, that is occurring now. We've started to allow that now. But the highest risk for individuals in this particular sport is if we allow them to participate in any team or large group pickup play with non-household members and shared equipment. That is the key for any of these sports. It is non-household members and shared equipment. How do we as an agency, for those programs that we don't sponsor directly, ensure that our partners have put things in place to ensure that their players have not been exposed? And then what is our liability as an agency to modify our spaces in order to allow them to go low, medium, and the highest risk being the organized play? The next is basketball. We see the lowest risk, the highest risk, and the medium risk. And it always goes back from own equipment at home to outdoor with household members, and then again with the highest risk, any team or large group. This was pulled from the USA Basketball and the Junior NBA. Lastly, soccer. You'll see our lowest risk being able to train at home. Again, going to public spaces with sanitized balls and household members. And then your highest risk being engaging in large group pickup play and non-household members. These sources and resources come from the U.S. Soccer Federation, U.S. Soccer Foundation, and DC Scores. So I wanted to share those because we were starting to hear feedback from some of our leads that they feel that they can do this. But I still go back to those numbers that I shared with you and the increased cases in our county. Now I'll go through this document. I won't read it all to you, but I have this, we're cleaning it up. The first thing we did was establish a COVID-19 return to work team. This includes our deputy director who is leading this with risk management, human resources, property management. So we're looking at our earliest phase has already started with reopening, and this outlines the spaces and the facilities. So we're looking at our outdoor recreation spaces where we can enforce social distancing and physical distancing. We have started, as you see, I'm back in the office today, a condensed work schedule. Our grounds are still being maintained. We are assisting where we can with the public sector, but all of our playgrounds, swimming pools, and our skate, well, we don't have skate parks, but our senior centers stay closed. No organized or small or large programs or events, no sharing of equipment. That's where we currently are today. It is our goal to be able to move into the second phase once we do see that decline over the 14 days of the decreased number of cases, and we will move forward with opening up our outdoor spaces for individual and household use and small group activities, but understand that we still have the governor's, he put something in place early on, and Jamie, help clear this up for me because I'm sure it's still in place, that you still can't gather with groups more than 3, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's been in place for quite some time. And so that ordinance has been in place for quite some time and it has not been lifted.
So we can't move forward with this second phase, which would be late May, early June, until that is lifted. And that's where we would open up our outdoor restrooms. We will move forward with the playgrounds still being closed. And I'll talk to you a little bit why playgrounds and basketball courts are the last. No organized group play and our senior centers. However, what we will do is start bringing back our staff members at all of the recreation centers in preparation for some type of normalcy during the summer and in the fall. Phase 3 would happen mid-June and early July, and that's where we will move forward with trying to work towards opening the swim pools and the community gardens. And why would we open the swimming pools? Well, the governor has given us some guidance for 20% of our capacity, but we do believe that there is potential for individual swim lessons We do think it's important to continue where we can to offer swim lessons because we are a community which has a high minority population and we have bodies of water. So it's very important that we teach children how to swim where we can. Summer programs may, as you see, I say may open, and it will all go back to being able to track that 14-day trajectory of downward numbers. And I'm already working with other partners to see how we can maximize opportunities between the libraries and ourselves, and it will be a very small program. What I'm looking at now, the possibility would be a program specifically for essential employees that are documented. This way it will allow us to have some control over the numbers, and it'll allow us to actually be able to track if we have an outbreak. And that is what I'm attempting to avoid, is opening too fast and putting more people at risk and actually having an outbreak. And the senior centers will still remain closed. And our last phase would be opening up the outdoor basketball courts. I saved them for last because that is the most difficult place for you to monitor social distancing. Then we'll move forward with looking at redoing and reopening for our rentals. The playgrounds, when it comes to disinfecting playgrounds, I want to share with you what we've been looking at is that you can disinfect the playground, but as soon as somebody touches it, that playground equipment is going to go right back to whatever the virus or whatever was spread. So we're trying to save those playgrounds for last, because by this time we're hoping it will offer us the opportunity to not have to worry about disinfecting. And then hopefully by this stage, we'll be able to move forward with all operations. As I shared with you, I don't take this lightly as all, which I already know that you don't either. I do think that it's important that we slow walk this, but as a public servant, I think that it is important that we start coming back in as a full-time leadership team and some of our frontline staff. I do want you to know that we have been providing training through webinars, and we are putting ourselves in a position that if these numbers change, we will be prepared to open. So I'll just close out with this slide. And this is something that I'd be more than happy to share with you as you're talking to your constituents, or if you have any questions. Thank you, Jamie, for summarizing this for me. We look at 4 phases, ladies and gentlemen. And the one thing that I wanted to make sure I impress upon you is that we want to do this in the most organized and methodical way that does not put our citizens or our staff at risk for higher numbers for COVID-19. So that concludes my presentation, Madam Chair, and I stand ready to answer any questions, and I'll leave the PowerPoint up if I need to go back and discuss anything in detail.
And you said, will this slide in particular be available like on the website or something if someone has like questions about reopening?
Yes, ma'am, but I do want to make sure that what we will have that waiver or disclaimer that these phases are subject to change based upon the COVID-19 pandemic data that we receive from the Department of Health and Environmental Control.
Yes. Okay.
I have a question. I'd like to know what kind of security do you have at the parks? Because I understand they're playing soccer out at Meadow Lake Park, and they even had a food truck out there.
We do have our safety coordinators. They're going out to the various sites and are enforcing the social distancing, as well as bringing us up to par if there's something that has occurred. This is my first time hearing about Meadow Lake having a organized soccer game, and you stated even a food truck out there?
Mm-hmm. I heard the food truck, somebody called the Richmond County Sheriff, and they came and they cited the food truck.
Okay. So yes, ma'am, and this will help us also when we start phasing our staff back in June. That would assist us in keeping our eyes and ears open, but we will follow up with staff and make sure that this is not occurring on a regular basis. And so unfortunately, madam, it's getting hot and people want to be outside, so we're finding ourselves having to police our parks a little more. But I appreciate the heads up.
So are any of the parks open now?
No, ma'am.
I didn't think so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Lakia, I had some people call me, which I think you've answered it, like baseball program. Several baseball people called me saying, you know, some of our people want to open, some don't want to reopen. So I think this document pretty much handles those issues. So in other words, I guess what I'm circling back to is if a spring sport such as baseball or soccer, obviously their seasons are pretty much normally would be over. If they wanted to resume, let's say, according to your phase 3 plan in mid-June or early July, if the numbers keep trending the way that they should, hopefully, then would they be able to open their leagues back up to help generate revenue for them and for you? Is that a possibility?
I think the best way for me to answer that question is that if we see the downward trajectory of these numbers, will we enter back into a lease with them so that they can utilize our spaces? Yes, sir.
Okay. And then my last question is regarding that is, somebody told me that the baseball league at Friars Gate or St. Andrews, the one that was going to go take it over themselves, is putting out emails and letters saying we're opening June 3rd.
Well, I'll be very honest with you. Dentsville sent us a message saying that they are opening on June 1st, and Blythewood said that they are opening. But the reality is we are the property owner.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
but they are putting this out to their citizens, and I'll be very honest with you, it's a little frustrating because we don't control that. No, sir. And it's a little frustrating because we are really putting the public health and safety up front. And so it's not we don't want you to open. We're just looking at this from the big picture and the numbers in our county. So they're not the only group. I'm going to be drafting something that I want to send to you all so that we all are on the same page, that will go out to all of the community leagues so that we can ask them not to make those plans, but we're willing to sit down and talk to them about what it is they would like to see and how they fit into our phased approach.
That's the key. The key that you just said is into our phased approach, not theirs.
Yes, sir. Yes.
And then, so City of Columbia and you, us, sound like, are we pretty much on the exact same page with them?
Yes, sir. It felt really good to read that in the article, but to confirm it with Mr. Randy Davis, he's actually presenting to his city council on Wednesday. But him and I spoke at length today about, because we do recognize we serve some of the same citizens. So you would hate for someone to show up at Greenview and they can go in and do senior activities on Mondays and Wednesdays, and right down the street from them is us, the adult AAC. So we are working together, and the numbers for our community are what's what. So.
See, that's just saying from a public standpoint, perception, in my opinion, like I understand Irmo Chapin is putting, their recreational league is putting out press that they're going to have a soccer league in the summer. I don't know when, no idea. But as long as I think that we're on the same page with City of Columbia, I think that, and I still think we have to do what you feel comfortable with, but I think being associated kind of with the City of Columbia on this is a good thing, in my opinion, to everybody here. So.
Yes, sir. I think that it's important that we work together collaboratively to address the issues for our citizens. So we had a very good phone call today, and Mr. Davis and I agree that this is something that we're going to do beyond COVID-19.
Perfect.
I have a lot of the same concerns that Rob does, as far as like these little leagues trying to get together and make a buck and, really put our county at danger, especially Lakita. I appreciate that you've broken down how our county is not in a place where it should be reopening. And while I agree that we should be providing open spaces and things like that, I'm not excited about anybody being inside of an indoor facility. And I'm not excited about the fact that we're not meeting a lot of criteria and people are trying to get back to doing stuff.
And I'll say this, I respect and I understand, that's why I love America. So the businesses are open and people can go and sit in and eat, but I'll be honest with you, as for me and mine, we're not sitting down anywhere eating but home. So, but that's a personal decision that I can make. But and as your ED, that's why I take it so seriously about what and how we present ourselves to the public, because I get it, people want to get out, but we need to do it in the most safe and secure way possible.
Yeah, good work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions or comments? Did you have anything else for your executive director report, Ms. Watson?
No, ma'am, I would like to share with you, not to belabor my time, but your team is still working, and I just want to publicly say to all of the team members from the Richland County Recreation Commission that are out here every day cutting grass, keeping our facilities looking good, that I appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. And I thank you as a board for your constant support and communication. I know that it's not easy with us not being together, but it is appreciated.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, would someone like to make a motion regarding executive session?
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
All right, Jamie, you know, all the regulars that you have up here, please do. And you can close everybody else out.
Cornelia, can you take that vote, please, real quick?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Did she drop off? Cornelia?
There she goes. She's trying to get
Okay.
unmuted. Yes, she
Get unmuted.
Okay.
Okay.
Scott,
Yes.
Lapine,
Yep.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Coach B.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay. All right.